Attitude Era saw a rebirth for tag team wrestling in WWE after several years where the division suffered from serious neglect. Hall of Fame-worthy teams like the New Age Outlaws, the APA, the Dudleys, the Hardys, and Edge and Christian helped usher in a golden age for doubles combat. But not all teams are created equal, and some were not so much Hall of Fame-worthy as disregarded and then quickly forgotten about. I'm Adam Pachisi from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 forgotten WWE Attitude Era tag teams. Join us.
But before we start, today's list is sponsored by NordVPN. We at Cultaholic truly believe that Nord is the best service of its kind. Firstly, it's super easy to use. Connect with one click or enable auto-connect for zero-click protection. There are over 5,300 servers in 60 countries, which is a hell of a lot. It has amazing speed, confirmed by the speed tests. NordVPN is the fastest VPN out there, and it's on every major platform. Oh, and there's a brand new threat protection feature, offering protection from trackers, malware, and even pop-ups and other intrusive ads. Great for browsing mucky websites, speaking from experience. So here's how I use Nord. Obviously, I live in the United Kingdom, but with NordVPN, I could set myself to be anywhere in the world virtually and access content from those regions. So this means, if I fancied it, I could set myself to be somewhere else in the world virtually and sign up for a certain sports entertainment network for a much cheaper price. Or, if I happen to live in the United States, I could sign up for that sports entertainment network, even though it doesn't really exist in the United States anymore. No peacocking about, just great quality graps for a much cheaper price. It's the equivalent of buying a cup of fancy coffee every month. A small price to pay, I'm sure you'll agree, for premium cybersecurity and access to a whole range of entertaining content. Oh, and there's even a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if NordVPN isn't for you, you can get your money back, no bother at all. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by heading to nordvpn.com/cultaholic. There is a link in the description below, obviously, and get a huge discount on your NordVPN plan, plus brand new threat protection, plus an additional month for free. nordvpn.com/cultaholic. And remember, if it's not for you, you can get your money back. 30-day money-back guarantee. You cannot say fairer than that, but trust me, you're not going to want to get rid of this. Pays for itself. nordvpn.com/cultaholic. Click the link below.
Number 10, Lowdown. D'Lo Brown was one of the pleasant surprises of the Attitude Era as he emerged from the Nation of Domination as a true singles player, winning the Intercontinental and European titles which he once held simultaneously. After that, and an association with Mark Henry, the real deal floated around for a while, first teaming with the Godfather and then forming an alliance with Chaz, who was also trying to find his feet after splitting from fellow headbanger Thrasher and following the disastrous Beaver Cleavage storyline. The duo was soon joined by manager Tiger Ali Singh and began copying his dress sense while parroting Tiger's lines about lack of fairness and racial discrimination. Lowdown was simply one more team in a crowded division and couldn't hope to stand out against some of the much more exciting and over tandems on the roster. Their one pay-per-view outing was as one of the many teams competing in a tag team table invitational at No Mercy 2000, but Lowdown mainly competed on weekend shows like Heat and Jacked. After Lowdown's Royal Rumble number was pulled in favor of Drew Carey, they quietly split up. I mean, there's no coming back from that really, is there? Number 9, Too Cold Scorpio and Terry Funk. When Cactus Jack made way for Dude Love, Terry Funk decided that he should probably stop putting women's pantyhose on his head and swinging a chainsaw about. He still wanted to be in a tag team, however, and so he got himself a new partner. And it was another Funk, not Dory Jr. or Hoss Funk though, but the former Flash Funk, aka Too Cold Scorpio, who also decided to ditch the wacky gimmicks and go back to his extreme roots. The combination of the middle-aged and crazy Texan and his high-flying understudy worked well, and the team picked up victories against the Quebecers and the New Midnight Express before going to a no contest with the Headbangers and then suffering a DQ loss to Kai and Tai. Their last outing together was a #1 contenders tag team Royal Rumble, which they didn't win, before they decided that they didn't want to team up anymore on a random episode of Shotgun Saturday Night. This led to a match fully loaded with the two men on opposite sides, as Funk partnered with Bradshaw while Scorpio joined forces with Farouk. Number 8, the new Midnight Express. Bob Holly and Bart Gunn knew a thing or two about being in tag teams. Bob had previously won the tag team titles with the 1-2-3 Kid, while Bart was best known as one half of the Smoking Guns alongside Billy Gunn. Both men were spinning their wheels without much direction in March of '98 when WWE put them together as the new Midnight Express. Part of the ill-fated NWA invasion that a sizable percentage of the WWE audience didn't care about, Bodacious Bart and Bombastic Bob were a pale imitation of one of the industry's greatest ever duos. With a different gimmick, they would have probably been just fine together, but throwing them on TV and expecting them to have the same chemistry as Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey was fanciful. They won the NWA tag team titles for whatever that's worth, but that is about as good as it got outside of a token WWE tag title shot at that year's infamous King of the Ring. The team was done shortly after, with Bob getting hardcore and Bart running riot in the disastrous Brawl for All in their respective bids to shake off the stink. Number 7, the Flying Nuns. You would do very well to remember the Flying Nuns since they only wrestled one WWE match. And that match didn't even take place on a Raw or pay-per-view, but on the very first episode of the experimental and downright balmy Shotgun Saturday Night, which isn't even available to watch on the WWE network. The Flying Nuns, the name an allusion to the 1960s sitcom of the same name, were portrayed by the would-be headbangers and given the names Sister Angelica and Mother Smucker. The Nuns beat the Godwins in the show's opener thanks to an assist from Brother Love. After the match, Big Brucey P rechristened Angelica and, Smucker as the Sisters of Love. The whole angle was supposed to be some elaborate way to introduce the bangers to WWE audiences, but it was dropped after the first episode of Shotgun Saturday Night. WWE were actually forced to scrap the gimmick due to some outside pressure from some religious groups. Did you learn nothing from Friar Ferguson, Vince? Anyway, WWE excused their absence on the second episode of Shotgun by claiming that the Nuns had been arrested and then swiftly moved on. Number 6, Steve Blackman and Grandmaster SEXAY. WWE loved an odd couple tag team in this era, and there are fewer odder couples than straight-laced martial arts man Steve Blackman and abrasively annoying party boy Grandmaster SEXAY. WWE had previously attempted to extract some personality out of Blackman in a similar manner a year earlier when they put him with Al Snow as head cheese. His alliance with SEXAY saw the former Too Cool member repeatedly try to convince the Lethal Weapon to dance with him after matches and many other zany hijinks, like the time Grandmaster walked in on him showing his big hard stick to Trish Stratus. The two were a team for about 2 months and had mixed fortunes depending on their opponents, but were pretty much a lower card light relief act. Their biggest match as a team took place on the pre-WrestleMania X7 episode of Sunday Night Heat, where they lost to X Factor in front of almost 70,000 fans. Right as they were starting to get established, however, they were forced to disband after Brian Christopher was fired for trying to cross the border into Canada while in possession of illegal drugs. Number 5, Albert and Scotty 2 Hotty. One of the reasons that Grandmaster SEXAY was paired up with Steve Blackman in the first place is because his regular partner Scotty 2 Hotty had gone down with an injury. By the time Scotty was ready to return, Grandmaster was gone, and that left the Master of the Worm without a pal to bust a move with. Fortunately for him, the rubbish X Factor group was soon disbanded, freeing up Albert and providing an opportunity for a little enlarged tandem to be formed. The Hip Hop Hippo, as he was known, had enjoyed a good run the year prior with Test, but the tag team titles continued to elude him. That wouldn't be remedied by teaming up with Mr. 2 Hotty, as the pair were basically an opening match act, though they did get the occasional big victory, like their win over Test and Christian in the opener of Vengeance 2001. Both members of the team would be sent to SmackDown via the initial WWE draft, with Albert turning on his partner shortly after. There would be no subsequent feud or match mind, as Scotty would once again be forced to sit out with an injury. Number 4, Southern Justice. Dennis Knight and Mark Canterbury's tag team journey had taken them from Texas Hangmen in WCW to slop-wielding hog farmers in WWE. The big thing was clearly running out of steam as the Attitude Era was heating up, however, and it was deemed in the summer of 1998 that they needed a repackage. Ditching the overalls and John Deere caps for sharp suits, sunglasses, and alligator shoes, the pair became known as Southern Justice, two sophisticated hillbilly guns for hire. Aligned with Jeff Jarrett, Canterbury and Knight, using their real names, helped Double J in his dispute with D-Generation X. Though primarily there to act as hired heavies and do things like help shave Howard Finkel's hair, Southern Justice also wrestled matches against teams such as the Headbangers, Too Much, and DOA. Their last outing together, which in fact was just about their last ever match as a team, save for a couple of indie shows over a decade later, was a loss to tag champs the New Age Outlaws on Raw. The team broke up when Canterbury went under the knife for career-ending surgery, setting the world on a terrifying path towards naked Midian. Number 3. Rikishi and Haku. One of the last defections during the Monday Night Wars, which by this point had essentially been over for a long time already, was reigning WCW Hardcore Champion Meng jumping to WWE as a surprise entrant in the 2001 Royal Rumble. He immediately struck up an alliance with fellow Islander Rikishi, who was in the middle of his bad man heel phase after being revealed as the wheelman in the Steve Austin Hit and Run. Incredibly, Haku and Rikishi were inserted into the main event picture and had a series of matches with the Brothers of Destruction, while on house shows they also mixed it up in headline bouts with the likes of Steve Austin and The Rock. Haku and Rikishi also had a very brief feud with the Hardy Boys and looked set to be on the card at WrestleMania X7, possibly against The Undertaker and Kane, when Rikishi was sidelined with an injury. The upshot was it almost immediately killed Haku's push as he quickly slipped down the card before Quiche returned and reverted to fun-loving babyface mode, putting any chance of a reunion to bed. Number 2. Bradshaw and TAKA MICHINOKU. Before Bradshaw found Ron Farouk Simmons and TAKA started regularly tagging with Funaki, the Little and Large Odd Couple found themselves briefly teaming together. It took place over the course of a few weeks in the spring of '98 as the tall Texan and one-man locker room welcoming committee took it upon himself to try and Americanize his Japanese colleague. That meant teaching him how to drive and smoke cigars, you know, those classic American pastimes. In the ring, they only had 3 matches where they tagged up, the first of them being at the Over the Edge pay-per-view in a handicap bout loss against Kaientai. They then won a match against a couple of jabronis on Shotgun Saturday Night before being one of the teams in that tag team Royal Rumble that was won by Kane and Mankind. Truth be told, both Bradshaw and TAKA could have benefited from a longer association with the other, as their contrasting styles meshed well together. As for why their run was so fleeting, I've honestly got mission no clue. Number 1. The Godfather and Val Venus. You have a friendly neighborhood pimp and a friendly adult entertainment star on your roster. Why the hell wouldn't you team those two fun-loving female exploiters together? At the height of the Attitude Era, WWE saw the obvious and put them together as the short-lived Supply and Demand. And could I just take a moment to say, dodgy sexual politics aside, that is one fantastic tag team name, even if it was an unofficial one. They initially started teaming at the end of 1998 and had a few televised matches before becoming a house show staple for a short while. They revived the team in the summer of '99 in pursuit of doubles gold and had matches with Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart, Droz and Prince Albert, and the Hardy Boys. Despite their complementary characters and untold merchandise and catchphrase opportunities, Supply and Demand never truly took off, and both characters are much more fondly remembered for their work as single stars. Later on, after the Parents Television Council had hammered down on WWE's more controversial creations, The Godfather and Venus joined the Right to Censor in order to help get one back on the puritanical advocacy group.